85.
Yes.
Yeah. Should I start?
Yes, Archana.
Okay. Good evening, Ascenters, and welcome to the fourth session of the Ascent webinar series called Ask the Expert. It is a new way for us to do, engage with you on learning sessions. COVID has put us through the situation of engaging with you through webinars, and I think it's working beautifully for us. Every week, we strive to bring you one particular topic chosen by you guys to understand and solve or at least get directions for all the queries that you are seeking in terms of the challenges that you're currently facing in your businesses due to the crisis. We have in the past done a webinar on cost management and cost reduction, one on HR and people practices during crisis, and assessing your own business risk. This one is dedicated to actually employment contracts and labor law issues during this time. And I'm privileged to welcome on board our two experts for today, Sohail Nathani, who is the managing partner at ELP. Sohail is widely recognized as a leading lawyer in India. His work is across M&A, regulatory, securities law, trade, and competition laws. Also, we have Amrita Kelkar, who's an associate partner at ELP and a part of the firm's corporate and commercial and private equity practices. Her experience includes finance, private equity, acquisitions, listed debt, fundraising, and real estate transactions. So welcome Sohail and Amrita to the fourth webinar of Ascent.
Thank you, Archana. Thank you, Ascenters. It's a pleasure to be here. In all the work that Archana and Amrita and I do, we do a lot of labor work. And in the last few weeks, we have been spending a lot of time with clients who are similarly positioned to you on the front lines, dealing with these issues in these unprecedented times. We don't purport to have all the answers. Actually, nobody has all the answers in this environment. There are lots of moving parts, but we will definitely try to bring you clarity on what your options are. Eventually, of course, as all entrepreneurs know better, there is a risk appetite, and this is, of course, covered with a lot of empathy for the people who work with us. And somewhere in that, there is a solution for what all of us are going through. So without much ado, I'm going to request Amrita to just run through a few slides, which will set the context. Thank you.
Thank you, Sohail. Hi everyone at Ascent Foundation. So thank you so much for taking out time in the afternoon and attending this presentation. So as Sohail mentioned, we'll take you through the basics of labor laws and what are the challenges which are being faced and what are the options that are available to employers while dealing with these situations. Shavana, can we are on the first slide. So let's just go through the basic concept. So first is, what are the types of employees an organization has? So typically the employees get categorized into three categories. One is a workman, that is anyone who is skilled, unskilled, or who's doing manual operational work, doesn't matter. The key criteria is that if anyone is working in a managerial capacity or an administrative capacity or in supervisory capacity, earning wages in excess of 10,000 rupees per month, that person does not get categorized as a workman. So this distinction is not really a blue collar and a white collar worker, because somebody who is a white collar worker can get qualified in workman category as well, because somebody who is a programmer, IT programmer, who is merely following orders of his manager or supervisor, is not taking any independent decisions, or a call center employee who's just following a script, those kind of people also may be white collar workers but fall within workman category. So a lot of labor laws are formulated to provide maximum protection to workman category of employees, because they are the most vulnerable and they are usually the ones drawing the least amount of salaries in an organization. The second type of employees that are there on board are contract labor. So contract labor is again workmen category who have been deployed not directly by the employer, but through a contractor. And the third category is managerial employees. So those who do not fall within the workmen category, those usually get qualified as managerial employees. So managerial employees are usually not governed by labor laws as such, but are merely governed by the contract that they have entered into for employment with the employer. Shravana, can you move to the next slide? Okay, so now let's just go through what has happened in past 1 month ever since the lockdown orders have come into effect. So on March 20th, the Ministry of Labor and Employment issued an advisory. I'll underline the word advisory to all the employers, be it public or private employers, advising them to extend their coordination and not terminate the employment of their employees, especially casual and contractual workers during the lockdown period, or cut their wages. So what was issued by Ministry of Labor and Employment was not really any directive or a notification under any law which empowers them to enact a particular enactment, but this was merely an advisory which was issued to the employees. So our view generally is that it's not really binding on the employers. So after the Ministry of Labor and Employment issued their advisory, each of the state governments came out with their advisories as well. So Maharashtra issued their advisory on the similar lines, where they requested the employers not to reduce salaries or terminate employment. But government of Telangana issued a slightly different direction. That was issued under the Epidemic Diseases Act, where all private establishments were required not to deduct wages and pay wages in full to all their employees, including contract labor and those who have been hired on outsourcing basis during the lockdown period. So that was a slight difference in Telangana. That was a directive which was issued under the Epidemic Diseases Act. It's questionable whether the government has the powers to issue such directives under Epidemic Diseases Act, because the Epidemic Diseases Act is basically to contain the spread of epidemic disease, and doesn't really deal with labor issues. Then the main order came on March 24, 2020, where the Ministry of Home Affairs the chairperson acting as the National Executive Committee's chairperson issued guidelines for implementing the lockdown, which was the nationwide lockdown, which was effective for 21 days starting from March 25th. And it gave detailed guidelines as to what was permissible, what was not permissible, etc. Then on March 29th, MHA again issued a notification. This is the most important notification which has been issued so far, which says that all employers, be it in any industry or any shop or a commercial establishment, shall make payment of wages of their workers at their workplaces on the due date without any deduction for the period their establishments are under closure during the lockdown. So this was issued under Section 10(2)L of the Disaster Management Act, which gives wide powers to the chairperson of National Executive Committee to give directions to states, state governments, etc., to implement orders or implement mechanisms to contain the disaster. And this is something which is binding on all employers. Shravana, can we move to the next slide?
Give me a second, Amrit, I'm doing that.
Sure. Okay, so what we have discussed so far is the the notifications which the government has issued under during the COVID period. But what are the labor enactments which are applicable to employee relations, which also need to be taken into consideration while dealing with the labor? So first is the Shops and Establishment Act. So each state has its own Shops and Establishment Act, which is applicable to shops, commercial establishments, hotels, restaurants, etc. So under Shops and Establishment Act, it basically prescribes the number of hours of work, which, like, you know, the maximum number of hours that the employee can work for, the holidays that the employee is entitled to, etc. And it also mentions that minimum 30 days notice period needs to be given to the employees before terminating their services. Now, coming to the Industrial Employment Standing Order Act 1946, it again requires each industrial establishment to formulate their own set of rules and regulations which deal with, like, you know, how to deal with their employees. So what should be their shifts, what should be their working conditions, etc. Each industrial establishment is permitted to define it for themselves. Then Industrial Disputes Act basically deals with any kind of industrial disputes, but the main provisions which is covered under the Industrial Disputes Act is the layoff provision and the retrenchment provisions of the workmen. And we'll deal with it in detail in later slides. And the next one is the Payment of Wages Act. So Payment of Wages Act basically regulates the manner in which the wages need to be paid to the workmen if such workmen draw less than 24,000 rupees per month salary. So anyone who earns more than 24,000 per month really doesn't fall within the Payment of Wages Act, so they are not really regulated. But anyone who falls within this bracket, their wages need to be paid by the employer by the 7th of the subsequent month, and their salaries can be deduced only in certain circumstances, and one of them is if they are absent from work, and their absence from work has to be voluntary. So if they are absent from work because there are external circumstances or because the employer is not able to provide them work, then they cannot be considered as absent. So coming to the Industrial Disputes Act. So Industrial Disputes Act basically, there are two main concepts under it. One is certain provisions of the Industrial Disputes Act apply to something which is an industrial establishment. That means a factory under the Factories Act, mine under the Mines Act, and a plantation under the Plantation Labor Act. So anything which doesn't fall within an industrial establishment would be your restaurants, any other kind of businesses where, like, you know, there's provision of services or production of goods that is being contemplated. So the layoff provisions, that is the ability of the employer to, on account of shortage of coal, power, or in case of natural calamity, etc., to be able to lay off an employee is only applicable to industrial establishments. So we'll see what happens in layoffs, but what to keep in mind is that layoff provisions are only applicable to industrial establishments. And as far as retrenchment provisions under the Industrial Disputes Act are concerned, that is termination of employment of the workmen for any reason other than as a punishment for any disciplinary action or any voluntary retirement, or any person reaching the age of retirement that has been agreed between the employer and employee. Any other kind of termination falls within the retrenchment definition, and the retrenchment provision is applicable to something called industry. So the definition of industry is much wider than the definition of industrial establishment. Industry includes any kind of systematic activity being undertaken between an employer and the workmen for production of good or distribution of services, whether any capital is invested in such activity or not. So it basically covers a wide ambit of economic activity as compared to industrial establishments. So 90% of the establishments really fall within the ambit of industry. The retrenchment provisions are applicable to almost 90% of the establishments. Okay, so now in this situation, given the various notifications which have been issued by the Department of Labor plus the Ministry of Home Affairs and the various labor enactments that we have gone through, what are the options which are available to establishments? So I mentioned layoff earlier, which is applicable only to industrial establishments, that is factory, plantation and mines. Those establishments can ask their employees to be laid off by paying them only 50% of the wages that they would otherwise be entitled to if they were not laid off. So, but if your organization has more than 100 employees and 100 workmen, not employees, then you will need the permission of the Labor Commissioner before you actually lay off the workmen. The second option, which a lot of our clients have been asking us about, is like, can we reduce the salaries of our employees? So in this case, again, when you're reducing the salaries, the employees can be bifurcated in two categories. One is workmen and one is managerial employees. So as far as workers are concerned, their salaries will need to be paid in full during the lockdown period without any reduction, because that's what the MHA notification says. As regards the managerial staff, their salaries can be reduced, but the best approach is to enter into some kind of negotiations and get them on board, and then reduce their salaries. After the lockdown period, what is possible is that you can provide 21 days prior notice to the workmen and reduce their salaries, provided the reduced salaries are above the minimum wages which are prescribed. Then the other option is leave without pay. So leave without pay, and nobody can be compelled to go on leave without pay. So the employees need to agree to this. So unless your employment contract specifies that, in case of natural calamity or some kind of government lockdown, you can be asked to go on leave without pay, your employees will need to be voluntarily agree to go on leave without pay. The next one is reduction in hours of work. So obviously this doesn't apply during the lockdown period, but after the lockdown period, if you want to reduce the number of hours of your employees because enough work is not available, which is the case with a lot of employers, those who fall within the minimum wage category bracket, those employees are, if they have been employed on full-term basis and they have not really been employed on hourly basis, then their number of hours cannot be reduced. You'll have to pay them on daily basis, whatever the minimum wages are, unless you retrench them and hire them back on hourly basis. But if you have any employees which have already been working on hourly basis, you can reduce their number of hours, because your contract would anyway say that they will be working as per the requirements of the employer, and they can be asked to work for reduced number of hours. So it really depends upon the your letter of employment and how it's worded and what is permitted under that. And the last option is retrenchment. Can you terminate the employment of your employees? So as far as the managerial employees are concerned, you follow the employment contract which is there with them. If it provides for 3 months notice, you give them 3 months notice. If it provides for 2 months notice, you provide 2 months notice. But the minimum notice period which is required under the Shops and Establishment Act is 30 days if the person has completed 6 months of service. So you will have to provide minimum 30 days before you terminate a managerial employee. As far as workmen are concerned, for workmen, certain preconditions have been provided before you retrench them, and we'll just discuss those preconditions in the next slide. Shravana, can we move to the next slide?
I'm on the next slide, Amrita.
Okay, sorry. Yeah. So what are the preconditions for retrenchment of workmen? So the first thing is you have to give them minimum 30 days notice if they have completed 6 months of service. If they have not completed 6 months of service, these conditions really don't apply to them. But if the employment contract provides for a longer period, then that longer period will be applicable. If it says 2 months, you'll have to give them 2 months notice. 3 months, you'll have to give them 3 months notice. In addition to that, you have to pay them 15 days average salary for each completed year of continuous service. This is in addition to the gratuity, which is generally payable. So you will have to pay gratuity under the Payment of Gratuity Act, but in addition to that, you will have to pay this retrenchment compensation, which is equivalent to 15 days average pay for each completed year of service. Then also the government authority, the Labour Commissioner, needs to be notified of the retrenchment, and the principle that needs to be followed is last in, first out. So if all employees are at same level and they are being retrenched, then the employee which was hired at the end, or the junior most employee, the junior most workman, will have to be retrenched first before you move to the seniority. Then at any time, if the workplace is rehiring the workmen for the same job, then you have to give preference to those workmen who have been retrenched. And you can then formulate a policy as to how you want to like rehire them, because if you have retrenched 100 employees and you are rehiring only 30 for a particular job, then you need to have a policy as to, in what order you will be offering them the employment. And obviously they need to meet the fit, the criteria which is prescribed for the employment. It's not that, just because they have been retrenched, they automatically get the job. You can interview them, you can see their fitness. If they meet the criteria which is required, then only you need to hire them. So those were the slides that we thought we will take you through. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Yeah. So just to moderate that better, there are two options. One is a Q&A section for you to post questions there, and one which says raise hand. By pinging on that, Shravana will unmute you and you can ask your audio question. Try not to put your Q&As in the chat session. We'll try to take the ones on the ones which is under the Q&A. So can I start the questions and direct it both of you, Sohail and Amrita?
Sure.
So the first question is from Ankit Tanna. Can PLs be adjusted against absenteeism in the current scenario? Is it within the legal framework to do so?
Amrita, you want to take that?
Sure. 1 second. So
Paid leave.
Paid leave, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you cannot compel someone to go on leave. So taking leave is the prerogative of the employee. So if the employee wants to go on leave, he usually applies for leave, and if the manager agrees to it, he goes on leave. So there's no concept of you compelling somebody to go on leave. So even the current situation, since a lot of organizations are not working, they are not functional, you cannot expect that, you can't legally compel to take paid leave by somebody.
So basically this can only be done with the consent of the employee. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
Okay.
There is a concept, and somebody had asked this question on compulsory leave. And do you want me to deal with that now?
Yes, please. What is technically a compulsory leave?
Yeah, so in a compulsory leave situation, if a unit is being temporarily shut down, you can put your employees or your workmen on leave, but that again would be with or without pay. And as Amrita said, that depends on what is in the agreement that you have made with the workers. So it's not that compulsory leave is always unpaid. So typically there will be a lot of situations here where we will need to A, rely on the documentation, and B, in some cases rely on the consent of the employee.
Okay. Next question is from Hemant Dave. A person in probation period, can he be terminated now in this period? Probation period.
So in terms of a probation, we don't know how your organization defines a probation situation, but the act is pretty clear that they have been employed for a 3-month period. Now, in the probation period, yes, you can terminate without a problem.
Okay, so that's answered. Rupali Mavani has a question. How can we manage PF, ESIC and PT for some of many employees and they're not working? I didn't understand the question. How can we manage PF? Yeah. Since they're not working, I guess.
So unfortunately, the government is put out these diktats that they want you to continue to pay salaries, ESIC, PF. They've allowed the workers an opportunity to withdraw from their PF as well. And we are expecting, based on our interaction with some policymakers, that the government will extend a group of incentives. And one of the criteria to qualify for the incentives will be that you have not laid off people. Yeah. So we can also go back to what Amrita showed of each of the notifications. If you see the notifications, until the Ministry of Home Affairs notification came out, we were of the view that they do not have the force of law. We also advised our clients that if it goes to court in this environment, the courts will be pro-labor. Then the Ministry of Home Affairs notification came, which clearly under the National Disaster Management Act, the government has many broad powers. And under that, they said that during the period of lockdown, you will not, you will pay your workers wages at the place of work. Now, subject matter of a lot of interpretation, what is the place of work? Suppose they're sitting at home, do you have to wire transfer the money? Whatever. But the fact is, what happened when the lockdown got extended? There's a whole debate around that because there is one situation where that the lockdown was extended, but this notification has not been properly extended. So some of our clients are now on the view that, look, we waited till the 14th, but now we can't wait any longer and we are going to go ahead and roll with the consequences.
Okay. Sorry, I'll have to run through the questions because some 33 questions have come now.
Okay.
So if you can keep it crisp, the responses, so we can go through a lot of them. Sure. Amrita, if you could answer there, is there a minimum years of service required for retrenchment compensation?
No, so retrenchment compensation is applicable to any employee who has completed minimum 1 year of service.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is by definition 1 year of service.
Yes.
Okay. What new or additional clause can be added in the employment contract for managerial people, including force majeure going forward? Best advice or suggestions for future?
Well, certainly we will add pandemic as a force majeure event. Many people did not believe that could happen in our lifetimes. 2, we will take the power to reduce the amount of hours given at work at a minimum. And 3, in the employees on the managerial side, we would put in a clause to reduce the notice period during a pandemic. So if you have a 30-day notice period, we would say during a pandemic, this stands reduced to 1 week or 15 days or whatever.
Okay.
Of course, this is subject to the overall directions or directives by the government.
Okay. So, but consciously put the pandemic clause now.
Definitely. We've already started redrafting banking, insurance, leases.
Right. Okay. If you have a piece rate contract with a contractor, how can you possibly pay during the lockdown? How do you calculate what the PCs would have been?
So there is this debate or discussion we had with India's largest engineering contracting company. And over there, they also have what they call these rate contracts for some scope of work. The question is, who does the liability fall on? So if you have a piece contract with the contractor, the prima facie view is that the liability to pay the wages is on the contractor, not on you as the principal employer.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Amrita, this is a question from Haren Sangvi. Is the Retrenchment Act applicable for non-factory act companies also?
You're right. So the Industrial Disputes Act, which takes care of the retrenchment provision, applies not only to factories, but all industries where there is commercial activity which takes place between the employer and employee for production of goods, services, etc. So almost 90% of the establishments get covered in the ambit of retrenchment provision.
Okay. Does Industrial Dispute Act is it applicable for shop and establishment acts also?
It doesn't automatically apply to shops and establishments. What it applies to is industry. So industry, as I mentioned, is any activity of production of goods or rendering of services between the employer and employee. So the distinction is technical, and I really won't get into the technical differentiation right now.
Okay.
But the bottom line is, if the Shops and Establishments Act refers to somebody as a workman, based on the directive issued by the Government of India, then we have taken the view that it is applicable to Shops and Establishment Act. So if workmen are involved, that notification does not make a distinction under any act. It just uses the word workman.
Right. Next question from Samir Saraya. We have some people in our office who have signed the consultancy contracts, but they're full-time working inside the office. Is there any issue to provide notice as per the consultancy contract and terminate the contract? Any government restrictions on this front?
So are these people who are working at your direction, or they are in some sort of a managerial capacity? If they are not workmen, i.e. they don't only follow instructions, then you can use your contract to give them notice as per the contract.
Okay. If not, then you cannot. Okay. Hemal Jobanputra question: employees who are on contract and the principal employer doesn't pay, what steps does the contractor take in this situation?
Unfortunately, this will go into a dispute. We have looked at this, like I said, with India's premier civil engineering company. Certain PSUs have agreed to pay. Certain PSUs who they work for have decided not to pay. And that will go into a litigation. There is a view that under the Indian Contract Act, there is a quasi-contract or an implied contract. And there may be a position to make a persuasive case that the employee, the eventual employee, should be liable for this, even under a contract.
Oh. Next question is, what about excess paid leave that is carried forward apart from the 21 earned PL? Can the carry forward be adjusted against the non-working days? Amrita, you want to answer that?
So, as I mentioned earlier, you cannot really adjust paid leave against the shutdown period, the lockdown period. So even if it's carried forward paid leave, you you will not be able to adjust that during the lockdown period.
Okay. A question from Mehvish
Without their
Pai.
consent.
Sorry?
Without, of course,
Without
if
the
the consent is something.
Without their
then-
consent.
Yeah.
Okay. Question from Pai. Will reduction in work hours for full-time employees have a mandatory effect on their salary?
So this is subject to the Payment of Wages Act. As long as you don't take them below the minimum wage in the Payment of Wages Act, you can continue to adjust. And that, as Amruta said, is 24,000 rupees per month.
Okay. There's a question from Kinjal Gandhi. We are planning to terminate a managerial employee at the end of March and give him a 1-month salary as part of the agreed contractual terms. In the present circumstances, how do we move forward in the process for termination? Any advice there?
So how do you give him a notice? You can serve him a notice by email or even WhatsApp, because today you can't mail him, you can't call him in front of you and give him the instruction.
Right.
So you will have to use any other reasonable means of communication to give him the notice.
Right. Okay. Next question is from, how do you deal with the press who's reporting the wrong information? For example, 10 people who were put on leave without pay, press reports 100 people sacked. Clearly,
So this
media
is a major problem, because in that notification that the Ministry of Home Affairs put out, they have made the police liable for enforcing this, and
Right.
that means not only the police, the press, local busybodies, local MLAs. One of our clients has got a call from a MLA who has threatened him for putting an employee on probation. This is a nuisance we'll have to deal with, and we will have to complain to the Labour Commissioner and also to the Press Council of India, and in extreme cases also lodge an FIR, because under the Criminal Act, anybody who is acting in a manner to cause a breach in peace and disturb the peace of the environment, you can lodge an FIR against him for false spreading of false information, as they're doing for all the WhatsApp guys right now.
Yeah, I guess. Okay. How does the sales officer get classified, and what are the causes of a sabbatical leave? Clauses around sabbatical leave.
Amrita, you want to take that?
Sorry, sales. Did you mention sales representative?
Sales officer. How do they get classified under those three that you mentioned? And are there any clauses for sabbatical leave?
So if the sales officer is not really taking independent decisions, not setting the prices, or not deciding how much quantity or what he can do, how much discount he can give, those kind of things, if he's following merely the orders which have been given to him, that he can only sell it at X price to this demography in this jurisdiction, etc., then he will fall within the workman category, and you will not be able to actually reduce his salary or anything during the lockdown period.
Okay. And the sabbatical also, no, you cannot reduce them.
I mean, if he voluntarily wants to go on sabbatical, there's nothing really stops him from going on a sabbatical. But
okay.
Yeah.
Question from Meenakshi Thakur. Please let us know, how does leave without pay or privileged leave shall work in current situation for healthcare industry, which is categorized as an essential service?
How does leave without pay or privileged leave shall work in current situations for health industry? You're operating, right? Because you're an essential service.
It's essential service.
Is it linked to the next question that your people can't make it to work?
No, this is an independent question.
But then why would they take leave if the organization is functioning?
That's technically.
They may ask you for leave, and you may choose to give them leave or not give them leave.
Yeah.
But it would not automatically come into play.
Okay. Next question is from Ronak Seth. My factory comes under the essential commodity, act, as most of my employees are coming to work. What about the employees who are not in the area and stuck somewhere because of lockdown? Do we need to pay them the salary and consider them on duty in current scenario because they are not around, but the organization is running?
Ronak, that's a very practical question, and there's a lot of play around that. Okay, one, if your factory is working and you're offering these people work under ideal conditions, if they don't show up, you don't have to pay them.
Yeah.
The second situation is that he's sitting in a lockdown. So how do you manage to get him to your place of work? Are you used to giving him some transportation? Does he use public transportation? And three, another criteria that increasingly comes up, because the notifications that we are working with were initially designed for migrant workers. Depends on that, because if the factory worker is a migrant worker, then you not only have an obligation to pay him, you have an obligation to keep him at your place of work and feed him as well. So the answer is not as straightforward. We'll have to just take a look at the specific facts, but typically, do you have to pay him in the extended lockdown? The conservative view is yes, but the practical or the legal view can be that since the initial notification is not fully or properly extended, you will not need to pay him.
Okay. So Ronak just mentioned saying that he's not a migrant worker.
Okay, and was Ronak providing him transportation to the factory, or was he making his own way?
No. Shravana, should we get Ronak to ask that audio question directly so there is clarity?
Sure. Ronak, may I please request you to raise your hand? It will be difficult for me to search. Or let me do that. Ronak,
We can move to the next question. Ronak.
Hello.
no, Ronak is here.
Ronak, please
yeah.
ask
Hello,
your
Archana.
question to Sohail because you wanted some clarity on your previous question.
Yeah. So Sohail, most of my workers are not migrant workers; they are permanent workers, and I cannot offer them a transportation because it will be a cross border between two states. Because my factory is at Daman, and the border is only 2 kilometers away from my factory. So not all employees are within the boundaries of Daman. They are in Gujarat.
Okay.
Some of them are in Gujarat, and the borders are sealed.
Right.
So even if I get the permission for the movement, that will be essentially only locally for Daman, not for
Yes.
Gujarat.
Yes, we've actually dealt with the collector there for some bakeries. The situation here is if you don't pay your labor, they will go to court, and in all likelihood, they will prevail because the lockdown condition has been prescribed. So unfortunately, I see the courts taking a pro-labor view in this time. It's best that you try and negotiate this out with your workers in a practical manner, saying that look, factory was opened, I offered, you didn't come, so let's either pay you half or
Right.
something
Or
like
an
that.
adjusted at a future date. Right.
Yeah, because I am afraid that the courts will side with the labor. Well, it's not. I'm not afraid. I believe that the courts will side with the labor in this day and age.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
Not a
Thank
very
you very much.
positive answer there, Ronak, but we'll have to move on.
Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ronak. In case of a not-for-profit organization, would there be any specific act to be followed for terminating an employee who isn't a workman?
No, it will only depend on the contract with the particular employer.
Okay. Again, there's a question on consultants, but I think we have taken this. Can I reduce salary for the consultants who are not coming to work during lockdown and I'm from the healthcare background? Contract consultants.
Yeah, they are not workmen, they are consultants to you, and you can vary the terms as per the written agreement that you have, and certainly by mutual consent.
Okay. I think there are questions on paid leave, which we have anyways said that you cannot do. So I'm going to skip that question. There is a question from Samir Saraya. As per the current directives for commercial establishments, can we terminate employees by giving 1 month notice? Reduce salaries for, or B, reduce salaries of employees, or C, defer salary payments of employees?
Amrita, you want to take that?
Yeah, sorry, Archana, can you just repeat that question?
As per the current directives for commercial establishments, can we A, terminate employees by giving 1 month notice, B, reduce salaries of employees, C, policy defer salary payments of employees?
So as far as workmen are concerned, you really can't do either of the above because of the MHA notification which is in place for during lockdown. You really can't implement anything as far as workmen are concerned. With managerial staff, you should be able to give them 1 month's notice or reduce their salary or do any of the three things that you mentioned. That's not a problem.
Okay. Sorry, we still have about 40 questions more to ask. So I'm going to go a little faster. If you could respond a little faster as well. Amit, Arvind, some of my employees have gone back to their village. We are looking at restarting on the 20th of this month. However, these employees won't be able to join. Do I still have any liabilities towards them, or can I hire replacements? What are the rules governing around this?
So again, if you are offering them work and they don't show up at work, you have a right to dismiss them. But I suspect that if they go to eventually show up and they seek re-employment and you choose not to employ them and they go to court, I suspect that, you know, court will be sympathetic towards them. So the answer is that if you opened and they don't show up to work, you follow the process of people who are quote unquote absconding and terminate them.
Can compulsory leave necessitated because of shifting of, can it be because of shifting of machinery be treated as layoff? I didn't understand that question. Can compulsory leave because of shifting of machinery be treated as a layoff? I'm not sure. I think I'll go to the next question. There's no clarity on that question.
And compulsory leave by its definition is temporary. You can't put somebody on permanent compulsory leave to a point that he's laid off.
Yeah. Himanshu asked, is the COVID insurance policy mandatory for employees?
Health insurance?
There is a COVID insurance policy which has come out. I don't know if you guys are aware of it. It was taken in the earlier webinar also. Is this going to be mandatory for all employees going forward?
So to buy COVID insurance?
Yes, for the employees.
Typically, there are very few insurance policies that are mandatory. So automobile sector has third-party mandatory. I don't believe that health insurance has any aspect which is mandatory to it. We'll have to look at that.
The MHA came out with a notification on 25th, on 15th, which laid down the guidelines for restarting certain industries from April 20th. I think one of the conditions there is that you have to compulsorily take a COVID insurance for your workers if you require them to report at work from April 20th.
Okay. The question from Milind Lada, can we compel ESIC legally to pay for this period in part? Should I repeat the question?
No, we're looking at it. Can we compel ESIC legally to pay for this period
for this
in
period?
Part?
Yeah.
I mean, we can try. The courts will have to compel them. We can make that application and see, but I don't think it'll work that way.
I don't think it'll fly now. Heyman Rupelil, when we retrench, we have to pay 15 days average salary. How is this average salary counted?
Amrita?
Yeah, so average salary is basically if you are paying 20 rupees at the beginning, say 120 rupees at the beginning of the year for 6 months, and say 150 for next 6 months. So you just average it out. So you will have to average out for the entire period of employment and reach at the average salary.
Okay. And a question from again, similar question, looks like the similar question. Megha Shah, can we reduce the salary of people by certain percentage under shop and establishment for April month, since the business has also been hit badly?
So as far as workers are concerned, you really cannot reduce their salaries during the lockdown. But for non-workman category, you can proceed to reduce their salaries. At all times, you have to comply with minimum wages. So anything about that, that's not a problem.
There's a question from Rajiv Sutar. What's the term helicopter money, and is there any chance that India will implement it? I've never heard.
Well, this is the large question on everybody's mind. How much will the government give incentive, and how deep and what shape it will take? My personal view, helicopter money in India will be very difficult to monitor. So I don't think India will implement.
Could you explain what this helicopter money is? Because I don't know myself. What does the terminology stand for?
So basically, in the US, I understand large sums of money is being printed and dropped into various companies. So in this situation, I have somebody, a very good friend of mine, who runs a business in the US, and the banks have, as per federal policy, called everybody and offered them loans to pay their people during this period. And of course, like $1,200 and all.
Yeah. So that's clearly not happening in India anytime soon. So moving on.
We may move into deficit financing, where the government will print a lot of money to put it into the economy. But I don't know if it will be given to individual companies.
Individual companies, yeah. How do I take back a lady staff from maternity during lockdown? And what will be our process of salary payout, since during maternity she was part of ESIC payout mode? Question from Arun Banerjee. Somebody who's coming back from maternity leave.
Amrita, you want to take that?
Sure. So if somebody has been on maternity leave and somebody's coming back, nothing really changes in that person's case. You will have to pay all the maternity benefits that the person otherwise was entitled to, including the full ESIC, which is applicable to the lady employee. So nothing really changes in that case.
Okay. It's a little longish question from Ravneet Singh. We are a construction company. We have around 1,200 employees at our various project sites. These include machine operators, welders, supervisors, engineers, everybody. They're housed at camp accommodations provided by us. All of them have been paid salaries in full for March 2020. All such employees are paid salaries in excess of 12.5 per month, 12,500 per month. Are we obligated to pay them full salary wages for the period of lockdown in April 2020 due to MHA order dated 29th March or otherwise?
So Ravneet, this is what I was saying. We spoke to one of India's largest contractors, and the view that they have taken is that, yes, these salaries are payable under the MHA order. In fact, the MHA order is designed for situations like this, where you have to pay them, you have to keep them, you have to feed them, so they don't hit the road and start spreading the COVID, if you will. So unfortunately, the view we have taken here is that, yes, you are obligated to pay them, and you will be need to do that for the entire period of the lockdown.
Okay. Question from Lakshmi. 90% of my employees' basic pay is below 15,000. Can we just pay the basic pay and skip other allowances? And the second question is, we heard the government is going to pay the PF. Is this true?
We don't know if the government is going to pay the PF. I mean, we are waiting to see what the government does. If they do pay the PF, good for everybody.
Right.
What is the second allowance dependent on? Is it just a tax structure so that, you could give them a part A or part B, or if the allowance is on conveyance and things like that, then, arguably, if there's no conveyance,
then you don't have to pay.
You could try not paying those allowances. You could try, not saying you don't have to.
Okay. Question from Rashmi Jha would also like to know about furlough procedure. Next question is whether we have to pay the full wages during lockdown, or it can be paid in half or so.
Amrita, you want to take that?
Sure. So under Indian law, there is really no provision for furlough. It's a very US concept. So Indian law really doesn't provide for furlough. And as far as the wages are concerned, you will have to pay them in full because as per the MHA circular, the entire wages have to be paid on the due date. So you're not even really allowed to defer the wages.
Okay, next question is, with this pandemic going forward, will employers use contract staffing option rather than hiring on direct roles to avoid the regulations to certain extent?
You know, unfortunately, there is going to be a new normal to do business. Yes, people will start using contract staffing. They will write in COVID clauses into contract staffing. Work from home will become a new norm. There is a question also whether you will need in the service industry, especially such large office spaces. So as people become more and more familiar or easy users of technology, a lot of this will be revisited. So yes, we think that contract labor will grow, and there will be a big fight as to who will bear the liability in case of a similar situation.
Question from Akshat Lada. Is there provision in DMA 2005 giving power to government authority to enforce employers to pay salary? We
So the
discussed that.
the Disaster Management Act has very wide powers, and typically it's almost like an emergency statute. And the courts, and let me also share with you, I had the occasion to speak to a couple of senior law officers who are also sitting in active judicial duty right now. And in such situations, let's take force majeure, for example. You know that force majeure conditions or force majeure like conditions exist today. But the fact of the matter is that in this force majeure times, courts are taking a very narrow and restrictive interpretation because that is the law, and the law in many ways follows the letter. And you know, like I often tell my wife, what does law and justice have to do with each other? So unfortunately, I think the courts will have to will continue to take a narrow reading of these issues.
Sure. Amrita and Sohail, we are at 5 o'clock and we'll still have to go through a lot of questions. I'm trying to skip the ones which are repetitive. Can we extend this webinar for another 15 minutes if you don't mind, so that we can answer as many questions as possible?
Sure.
Great. This question from Prakash Biani. I'm a contractor providing third-party manpower to our clients. One of my clients, a principal employer, contract expired on 31st March and didn't renew it. We have hired employees deputed to this client where the employee contract period is even beyond 31st March. Can we push principal employer to pay for the further duration as well, considering the lockdown?
See, the situation here to my mind is it's a question of contract. If you had a reasonable expectation or he had led you to believe that he would extend the contract, then he may be stopped in a manner of speaking from terminating the contract. But if you don't have a valid contract, it'll move out of the realm of labor and move into the realm of whether there is a validly concluded contract. And honestly, for the short time, you can expect to pay that duration or to pay those salaries, because that guy to get him to pay, you'll have to take him to court.
This is just a reconfirmation question. Can we reduce the salary of managerial staff who are anyways paid 4 to 5 times higher than minimum wages? Question from Mahesh Ahuja.
Yeah, you can go ahead and reduce their salaries during the lockdown, provided they're in managerial capacity.
Okay. Next question is from Poonam Gupta. We are in essential service, and even after providing transport and the required facility to work from office, employees are not reporting to work. So what needs to be done? Can we deduct their salary? If we pay them, people who are actually working and reporting to work will get demotivated.
Amrita, you want to take that? We just dealt with it.
Okay, so there are two things. So if they are voluntarily not showing up at work, and there is nothing which prevents them really from coming to work, because the transportation has been provided. Then you can treat them as absent, provided there are no external circumstances, like their area has not been declared containment zone and they are not allowed to step out of the house, or they have been put into they're not allowed to step out of the house because of some medical, like if they have caught COVID or they have come in touch with somebody who has COVID. So if these external factors which are not in place, I think you should be able to treat them as that.
Okay. Another question, how does someone need to go about a hike on their salary given the current prices? I'm not sure if this question is very direct. I think we'll move on to the next one. Just a second. Question from Rahul Shah. Are there any provision in the law for work from home legally? Are there any provisions?
Depends on the nature of work they do. There's some tasks that can't be done from home, which requires them to be at a particular location. But otherwise, there's a lot of flexibility to the employer-employee to figure out where the work is done from, especially in the managerial type of roles.
Question from Manisha Sangani. Gratuity, if there are losses, how do we pay?
We're hoping that the government will give you some sort of incentive, tax pay, tax break, or contribution to meet with these issues. We don't know the answer. That's a real issue that many of our clients and businesses are facing.
If the workers are covered by ESI, then do we need to take any other medical insurance? Legally, are they expected to take any other medical insurance?
Amit, I have not seen that Ministry of Health notification. Can you answer that?
Yeah, so the MHA order which came out on the 15th, which sets out the guidelines for undertaking some kind of industrial activity or commercial activity post April 20th, there is a requirement for procuring medical insurance, COVID insurance for the employees who will be reporting to work post April 20th.
Okay.
So other than that, there is nothing really which requires you to take insurance for them.
Question from Priyank Banker. Though MHA has issued a notification for paying workmen, Ministry of Corporate Affairs has issued FAQs on CSR on April 10th, 2020, which reads that payment to workers during lockdown is a moral obligation of employer. Can employer take shelter under these FAQs and not pay both to workers and staff, since it is moral obligation in lockdown period?
So I think I've seen that Ministry of Corporate Affairs saying that that will be a CS counted as towards CSR or something like that.
Yeah.
But to undertake CSR, to undertake CSR, you have to be a profitable company. So what if you're not a profitable company? You're not bound to do CSR. And like I said, it's a moral request. It does not have the binding force of law. And again, justice, morality, and law have to be looked at in separate silos.
Right.
So as lawyers, we would say that there's nothing binding on that, but practically we can see the government actually penalizing you or disqualifying you from certain benefits if you don't follow these instructions of theirs.
Right. Something very similar question. If you want to terminate a managerial employee who has worked for 8 years, what are the liabilities to be paid?
It's contractual. He is managerial. If you have a 2-month notice in his contract, you give him the 2-month notice and terminate it.
A question again from Mahesh Ahuja. We have a lot of sales people on variable and they are paid on business generated. We have adequate paperwork on the same, like an agent letter, etc. April, since there is no business, do you think anyone can claim any kind of payout in such a scenario?
Can anyone claim? Yes, anybody can file any suit of any this thing. But if you have a basic which you are paying for them, then we'll have to look at the documentation. But if it's above the minimum wages, you should be okay.
Right.
Amrita, sorry, Amrita, any view on that?
No, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Right.
Another question which seems to be similar, we are an essential service provider, an FMCG. Can we force our field officers to work and market in this lockdown period after providing an e-pass to them, because that's come out now? And if they are not ready to work, can we terminate their jobs, all under 6 months probation period? Is there any legal issue if we do so?
No, there should not be any legal issue because you are asking them to work in accordance with the guidelines that the government has prescribed. So they will have an e-pass. I assume you will get them the requisite COVID insurance, and there will be all the social distancing rules to follow. If people choose not to work in this new normal, I don't see any impediment from you terminating them.
To terminate the contract. Okay. Okay. I think that some of these questions are not necessarily legal, so I'm going to skip them. Is there any direction from the government against force majeure during pandemic?
So, you know, we've been talking to the Law Ministry and the Commerce Ministry to come out with a blanket moratorium, which would be like a superimposed force majeure.
Yeah.
It's still under consideration. We've spoken to people pretty high up, and we've circulated a note as well, but nothing's forthcoming. Let me give you another example. If you see the credit card agreement between you and your bank, the RBI as the supervisory agency passed a notification saying that there can be a 3-month moratorium, and they will allow banks to do that without reporting you to the credit agency. So we are looking for something that supersedes everything and just comes in and says, look, this is done. But I think the Law Ministry and the Commerce Ministry are still sort of considering.
Right. How does one HR practitioner handle a situation where employees demand a hike in this situation? Are the employees entitled to a hike given the current scenario?
I don't think there's any sense of entitlement for a hike that should remain. Okay. And honestly, if people are not willing to work at the salaries you're offering, then you all should just agree to let them move on.
Okay, then I'm not going to ask a hike this year. Moving on. Next question. Why ESIC does not take care of COVID under ES? I mean, why isn't COVID a part of ESIC?
Answer to that. Nobody expected this black swan event. Nobody.
Yeah. So we can't plan for this, can we?
Yeah.
Okay. It seems like very similar questions, so I'm going to skip that. In case of managerial employee under probation, notice period says 2 months, but can we pay 1 month and do or any other? Not pay for the other month? Is there any legal implication to that?
I mean, the legal implication is that it's a breach of contract, and he will have to sue you for that. And we know how long court cases take in India. But of course, if you're looking to bounce back from this, it just conveys an impression that you did not honor the contract in an environment like this. So it's reputational versus the law. Legally, he's entitled to it, but he can't force you to pay without taking you to court.
In which category can we consider teachers if you want to do pay cut as business is affected? The business might be involved in having teachers, schools, yeah. If you want to,
universities, and I don't believe that teachers are workmen by any standards, but each university will have its own statute about the staff and how you can cut salaries, and if you're an aided or an unaided school or college, then the government is in any case reimbursing you the salary.
Yeah. In a lockdown, what are we supposed to pay TA and DA also during a lockdown period, considering nobody is in the market? Are we supposed to pay the TA and DA?
Sorry,
in a lockdown, sorry, are we supposed to pay the TA and DA?
TA, sorry, what is that?
TA and DA, this is your direct allowance and travel allowance.
But no, so I think travel allowance, if there is no travel involved, I think we can take an argument as Suhail said and try to get away with it. And dearness allowance, I think it forms part of your salary. So I don't know if you can get away with that.
Yeah, I think the previous question was also the same thing. Can I just pay basic and not pay the other things because there's no travel and all involved? So,
But if you are paying them house rent, allowance, etc., you will have to continue paying them, because that, if you don't pay that, it'll amount to reduction in salary.
right. I think we have time for another, just two more questions, and I'll just choose one among this which we have not answered in any other way. Oh, shall we skip the bonus for this year due to lockdown business loss?
I mean, bonus is dependent on performance, both of the employee and the company, right?
Right. So the question, direct question, answer to that is yes or a no.
The direct answer is, if you're one of those companies that has done really well during lockdown, being healthcare or something like that, that's then you can pay it out. But if obviously you've been affected, like most of us have, that is up in the air.
Yeah. If we have contract workers and we don't have cash flow to pay them during the lockdown, what are the legal consequences of not paying? If we decide to terminate the contract after the lockdown, logically, if we lose in court, we would just have to pay the salaries during the lockdown period. They want it validated. Is that right?
Yeah, that is correct. Of course, you'll have a social issue immediately on hand if you stop paying people, and local politician and police, all those people may get into the act. But
Right.
the reality is the reality. If there's no cash flow, then where are you going to get the money to pay?
Okay. In the BPO industry, who all will qualify as workmen? Somebody needed that validation.
So anybody who's simply following orders, as Amrita said right at the beginning, with no discretion in what they do, without any supervisory role, unfortunately, the jurisprudence is that they are considered workmen, even if they work in the BPO or IT industry. So they're answering questions to a script.
Right. Okay, just going through it and seeing if there are any other questions. I mean, there are other questions like, can variable part of the salary be deducted? Is there also any standard procedure of salary deduction legally? Can variable
This
part
is on employees or on workmen?
on workmen?
Are we assuming it's workmen? There are very few without giving them notice and keeping them above the minimum wage or formally retrenching them.
Okay, what are the penalties
like
for not paying contract workers during the lockdown? Is it a monetary fine that we may have to pay at a later date?
They've not prescribed it, and typically under law, whatever is in the statute will apply. But I don't see the government bringing in any law retrospectively. So Amrita, if you're aware of any provisions under the Contract Labor Act for non-payment of wages and the fines it attracts, it will probably be.
No, offhand, I don't remember the fines, etc. But we'll need to come back to you on whether it amounts to criminal offense or not. If I remember vaguely, it also amounts to a criminal offense not paying the wages of the contract labor.
Okay. Okay, I think time is up. So just to let the participants know that we will be sending out the recording of this webinar for people who, I think there were some challenges of people writing down notes as we kept answering them. So we will send out the recordings, and you will get a feedback. We'll love to hear from you on what you thought about the webinar. It only allows us to get more experts coming and make it better for you guys in terms of content. Thank you, Sohail, and thank you, Amrita, for taking out time and extending the time of the webinar. I think a lot of questions got answered there. If not directly, at least we have directions on how we can take things forward. Thank you so much for being part of the webinar.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Archana, and everybody for having us here. And look forward to continued interaction.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.